This woman was jailed for stabbing her husband to death after a row over Bubble and Squeak. Penelope Jackson killed David Jackson, her husband of 24 years, at their home in Barrow, Somerset in February 2021. She stabbed him to death following a row over serving Bubble and Squeak for her birthday meal. Jackson, a retired accountant, denied murder but pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter, saying she had lost control following years of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her husband. The killer, who had been married 3 times before meeting Mr. Jackson, claimed her 78-year-old husband had coercively controlled her, including preventing her from seeing friends and even deciding what she watched on TV. But Bristol Crown Court heard she repeatedly refused to help Mr. Jackson when the emergency call handler asked her to take steps such as apply pressure to the wound or throw him a towel to try to stem the bleeding. She was convicted of murder and handed a sentence of life in prison with a minimum term of 18 years in October 2021.
Right, get the ambulance in, pronto. We need CPR.
No, please don't.
Yeah, we need the ambulance in.
Should have stabbed him a bit more.
Ross McCallum, 30, attacked and unalived Megan Newborough, 23, because he couldn't perform in the bedroom. Megan Newborough, a young HR worker from Nuneaton, was last seen on August 6, 2021, leaving her family home on Ring doorbell footage, mentioning she'd be back shortly. When she didn't return, her family reported her missing, leading police to trace her car, which was picked up by automatic number plate recognition 30 miles away in the small town of Loughborough, providing officers with their first substantial lead. Megan had recently started seeing Ross McCallum, a co-worker, and had planned to meet him that night. Initially, McCallum expressed concern about Megan's sudden disappearance, leaving her messages that appeared caring. However, digital evidence soon revealed discrepancies in his story, including staged voicemails and suspicious online activity. CCTV footage later provided crucial insights, capturing McCallum disposing of Megan's bloodstained clothing and other belongings at Loughborough College. When police eventually arrested McCallum at his family's home, he directed them to a location near Loughborough where Megan's body was found. The post-mortem examination uncovered that Megan had been strangled and subsequently attacked with a knife, with McCallum later admitting he used the weapon to ensure she could not tell people what a bad man he was. Investigations into McCallum's text messages revealed a dark, obsessive side marked by dominance, manipulation, and violent fantasies. These messages traced a gradual shift from affection to coercion and threats. Prosecutors argued that McCallum's struggle with personal inadequacies and his failed sexual encounter with Megan days before the murder had triggered his violent response. They presented evidence of a violent altercation at his home, where items had been knocked over in what was believed to be Megan's fight for her life. After a 6-week trial, the jury took only 90 minutes to convict McCallum of murder, rejecting his claims of diminished responsibility. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 23 years. Cynthia Fernandez, 37, was sentenced to life in prison without parole for her role in Gabriel Fernandez's 2013 murder, while her boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre, 40, was sentenced to death. Gabriel Fernandez was an 8-year-old boy from Palmdale, California, who tragically lost his life in 2013 due to severe abuse by his mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre. Gabriel, described as a loving and kind child, had been cared for by relatives for much of his early life. His family had concerns when Pearl took custody of him in 2012, reportedly so she could receive more welfare benefits, despite her history of neglect. Gabriel began attending a new school where his teacher noticed concerning signs. Just a few weeks into school, Gabriel confided in his teacher, asking questions that indicated he was being mistreated at home. He asked if it was normal for moms to hit their kids, and whether injuries that made him bleed were typical. The teacher immediately reported her concerns to Child Protective Services, and a social worker began visiting Gabriel's home. Despite these visits, they failed to recognize the severity of his situation. Even with the visible signs of distress, no decisive action was taken to remove Gabriel from Pearl's custody. As the months progressed, the abuse Gabriel suffered worsened. He began arriving at school with visible injuries, including missing hair, scabs on his scalp, and bruising on his face. In court, it was revealed that Gabriel's siblings witnessed him being confined to a small cabinet in his mother's room for extended periods of time. On May 22, 2013, Pearl Fernandez called 911 to report Gabriel was not breathing. paramedics arrived to find Gabriel with extensive injuries, including broken ribs, skull fractures, and BB pellet wounds on his body. A paramedic on the scene described his condition as among the worst she had ever encountered. Gabriel was rushed to the hospital, but was declared brain dead and passed away 2 days later on May 24, 2013.
But until we figure out what's going on, just don't beat me up.
Nobody beating you up.
Mia Marcano, a vibrant 19-year-old college student living in Orlando, Florida, vanished without a trace on September 24, 2021. Her family's alarm grew when she missed her flight to visit them and stopped responding to calls or texts. Fearing the worst, they reported her disappearance to the police. Attention quickly turned to 27-year-old Armando Caballero, a maintenance worker at Mia's apartment complex. Known for his obsessive behavior toward her, he repeatedly texted, approached her, and even tried to offer her money, refusing to accept her clear rejections. When questioned by the police, Caballero denied any connection to her disappearance. Tragically, Mia's body was discovered in a state of decomposition with signs of restraint. Though her cause of death was inconclusive, it was evident she had been murdered. Just days earlier, Caballero, the prime suspect, had unalived himself on September 27, leaving behind evidence that tied him to the crime. Investigators discovered he had used a master key to access Mia's apartment and found her hair and blood among his belongings. The heartbreak of Mia's story resonated nationwide, prompting legislative action. In March 2022, Mia's law was passed, mandating stricter background checks for employees with access to master keys and requiring a 24-hour notice before entering tenants' apartments.
Ellie, what's going on? You okay? Have you taken something? Sit down for me. Sit down.
This is the case of Eleanor Williams. In 2020, Williams, a 22-year-old from Barrow-in-Furness, posted horrifying images of herself covered in bruises, claiming she had been beaten and trafficked by an Asian grooming gang. The allegations spread like wildfire, sparking nationwide protests, online campaigns, and even a global movement, Justice for Ellie. But as police dug deeper, the truth unraveled. Williams had fabricated the entire story. Her injuries, self-inflicted, her claims, completely false. She used fake social media accounts and falsely accused multiple men, some of whom attempted to take their own lives. The fallout was immense. Hate crimes in Barrow tripled, businesses were vandalized, and innocent people were targeted. Police recorded 151 crimes linked to the case. In January 2023, Williams was found guilty of perverting the course of justice and sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. The judge warned that her actions could deter real victims from coming forward. Should harsher punishments be given for false accusations? Leave your thoughts in the comments.